Thanks. All right, thank you. Welcome to the April 19th Edina Transportation Commission meeting. Our first thing, what we're going to do is go to roll call. Sharon, roll call. Whoops, there went one of our members. Okay.
Member Bass? Here. Member Braden? Here. Member Franzen? Member Iyer? Member Janovy?
Here.
Member LaForce?
Here.
Member Nelson?
Here.
Member Schreiger?
Here.
Member Thompson?
Here.
Member Whited is on her way in.
Yep, she's here. All right, so for a modification to the meeting agenda, we are thinking of moving 1A to after the approval of minutes to allow a few more moments for members to get here. Would anybody like to move the agenda?
I'll move the change to the agenda.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Approval of the minutes. That we had two sets of minutes. Regular meeting of February 16th. Would anybody like to move approval? Or are there comments and corrections?
I would move approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Regular meeting minutes of March 15th. Or regular meeting March 15th. Would anybody like to approve or motion approval of those minutes?
I'll move the minutes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, so let's go to 1A, election of chair. And I want, first of all, let me just say it has been such a pleasure to serve in this capacity, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I'm happy to pass it on. So with that, could I please have nominees for chair?
Yeah, first, I'd like to just thank you for serving as chair. I've learned you were probably one of the most dedicated people in public service over the last year. Very dedicated. We moved quite a bit of things, so very appreciative, and I think I speak on behalf of the other members too. But I also see dedication in Paul Nelson, and I move to appoint him chair.
Thank you. Is there a second? Oh, wait. Do I need to? I need to take more, right? Are there any other? Okay. So how do we do this? You know, I actually don't know. Okay. Hearing no other nominations, move to close.
I move to close nominations.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So now do we go and vote on the motion? Okay. All in favor of Paul being our chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yay, thank you.
Congratulations.
Take over. Now you take over the next. Yeah, you can have the gavel.
Well, thank you. And I'd like to parrot what was said earlier and thank Jennifer for her 2 years of service as our leader. And no, I'm fine. But moving right along, I guess we'd like to move right into the community comment. There are a few people. I'm sorry. Oh, we're okay. I'm sorry. We do need to elect vice chair. So I'd like to ask for nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Catherine Bass.
We have a second. Does she need to accept, or would you like to accept?
I accept.
Are there other nominations? Hearing none, I call to close the nominations.
I'll move to close nominations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and welcome. All right, I think we are on to community comment now. There are several people in the audience. Is there anybody that would like to comment from the community? Please, there is a notes in there. I think I'll let you read those, but please step forward to one of the microphones so you can be heard and state your name and address.
Sid, 5401 Wooddale Avenue. I'd like to comment on the TLC Bike Boulevard Project A. Okay. Should I wait till the formal comment period or discuss my comment?
This would be the proper time to do it, yes.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Again, my name's Andrew Cassett. I've lived at 5401 Wooddale for the last 42 years. My parents owned that home prior to me. I was at the meeting last week and was able to see the plan for the bikeway that goes down 54th Street through Wooddale Avenue out to Valley View Road. And I have a few comments. I believe I'm in a unique position living on that corner. I've watched the traffic patterns for over 40 years, and I understand some of the problems and some of the different items that you have to deal with the redesign in 2014 of that road. I would respectfully request that the plan considers the parking needs of the neighbors along with the pedestrian needs on 54th Street. Today there are some significant issues with pedestrian safety on that road. I believe they'll most likely be addressed with the 2014 resurfacing project and redoing that road. We'd also request that we maintain parking between certain segments of 54th Street. Today, between Wooddale and Kellogg, we have 10 spots, 5 roughly on both sides of the road. Under the current plan, both sides of the road would eliminate parking. I would request that you look at a plan that would provide parking to at least maintain some of the parking on that road. Also, that intersection over time we've had issues with people not stopping on that corner of Wooddale and on 54th Street. In the past, we've had police officers that have stationed on that on 54th Street to observe the traffic and patrol that intersection. If you eliminate the parking spot on that side of the road facing Wooddale Avenue, that would be a traffic concern, I would think, to monitor that intersection. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please step forward. And I think it might help if you step to one of the side, unless you have something to show, step to one of the side over further. Oh. There you go. All right. And then just please state your name and address. Thank you.
My name is Eileen Supple. I live at 7332 West Shore Drive. And I'm here speaking for myself as a resident, but also as a member of Edina Community Lutheran Church. You may have received a letter this afternoon, yes, from the leadership there at the church, and it is located on 54th Street between Halifax and the creek. And I just wanted to highlight that the church is very excited about the possibility of a bike path. We have a lot of bikers in our congregation. One of our pastors is a commuting cyclist, so we're excited about it. But we also have a concern about the proposal as it was initially presented. We have relied on on-street parking for 64 years at that location. And we're very concerned that we continue to need on-street parking. We have avoided adding parking to our location in the form of lots because we are right on the creek. Our property extends to the creek, and we don't want to add any more surface that would cause runoff into the creek. So we would really encourage you to look at the possibility of a share the road concept between France and Wooddale or France and some point so that we can continue to use on-street parking. We feel like it would hamper our congregation's ministry a great deal if we could not do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the community? All right. Well, thank you both for those comments. And we will move into the reports and recommendations. Item 4A, 6A, excuse me, the TLC Bike Boulevard project presentation. And we have a presenter here from Alliant. Mike, please come forward.
Am I on? Okay. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Tonight we have a presentation that we want to give on the Edina Bicycle Boulevard, or Phase 1 as we're calling it. I have with me is Mike Anderson with Alliant Engineering. Also with us tonight is Steve Clark with Transit for Livable Communities that's in the audience. So if you have any questions, when we get to the question and answer period, it's just Steve could answer anything that you might be relating to the TLC or Transit for Livable Communities. I did place on your dais in front of you is a set of plans, that kind of a more blown up section that covers the entire route that we just got yesterday. We did have an informational meeting last week, and at that informational meeting we actually had kind of a roll plans or a corridor plans for it, but we didn't have the plan sheets cut yet, or Alliant hadn't had them cut yet. So I thought it was important that we had that in front of you, so if you, as he's going through the presentation, as you can correlate back to the plan set, and then also back to the open house information sheet that was handed out last week. That should be part of the packet that you received behind my cover report too. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and Mike can kind of go through what we're recommending from a staff and consultant level, and hopefully have some great input from the commission. Thanks.
These work?
No, yeah, okay.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. As Wayne mentioned, I'm Mike Anderson, traffic engineer with Alliant Engineering, Alliance project manager on this project. Tonight I want to just briefly cover the project limits. They have changed since we were last here on February 16th. I'll also give you an update on the project schedule, and then briefly walk through our recommended layout. The project limits include, for Phase 1 of this project highlighted in red, include Wooddale Avenue, 54th Street, Valley View Road, and then a southern portion of Wooddale connecting to 70th Street. This route here will connect to on-street bike lanes on to bike facility on 44th Street, 70th Street, and then to future bikeway that the City of Minneapolis has planned for Zenith Avenue. Phase 2 of the project, which was originally part of this grant, has been eliminated due to construction cost for this piece. So what we have done instead of this is included the southern portion, which extends the bike route down Wooddale across the Ped Bridge, and then connects to 70th Street via Southdale Road and Cornelius Drive. The goal of this project is to construct this year, 2012. We did have the public meeting last week. We are intending to go to City Council for council action on the 15th. Really our drop dead date is July 1st, needing to advertise for bid in order to have construction start by the end of August, first part of September. So working back from that date, our schedule is to have plans to MnDOT state aid first part of May in order for the approval process to occur before July 1st. The objective of this project is to provide an on-street bicycle facility that will encourage increased bicycling and also improve the safety for cyclists that are currently using these roadways. So really the goal is to provide a dedicated bicycle lanes or a designated share the road facility. Dedicated bicycle lanes really are the preferred option. We start talking about roadways that have a traffic volume greater than 2,000 vehicles per day. That's the rule of thumb, to really provide that additional comfort that the cyclists are looking for, and the appropriate lane designation within the road space. Most of these roadways here are municipal state aid roads, MSA roadways, so any change in street operations require a MnDOT approval. We also need to meet MnDOT state aid design standards. So really, when we're looking at these roads, our challenge becomes how do you fit a bike facility within the existing curb-to-curb street width, and then meet these specific design standards, which include minimum lane widths, and then also include adhering to the Minnesota Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is the local, state, and federal governing standards for pavement markings and roadway signing. So really, when you're looking at these projects, the minimum lane widths and the MUTCD really govern most of our design alternatives, and then frame the trade-offs that occur. In this case, it's on-street parking versus bike lane, or bike lane versus designated lane, or maybe we look at substandard lane widths. We have been coordinating with MnDOT state aid over the last couple months. With this project, we do not require any variances to the state aid design standards, but we do, however, require 2 FHWA requests to experiment for special pavement marking treatments, which I'll highlight as I walk through the layouts. These layouts that I'll go through here are maybe a little bit different than what you have there. I have this broken out as an exhibit that represents a typical section for the segment. So the first segment here is 54th Street from France to Zenith. This is a low-volume residential street. It's not a state aid roadway. So the appropriate design here that we're recommending is a share the road designated by a bike boulevard pavement message, and then also share the lane roadway sign. We are also recommending 2 traffic circles for traffic calming. Those will be located at Beard Avenue and Drew Avenue. Along with these traffic circles, we are recommending the removal of the stop signs at Beard Avenue and Drew Avenue. These are currently two-way stop controlled. Really, the appropriate traffic control is either a no control for residential street or potentially a 4-way yield condition. Here's an example of what the traffic circle might look like. They're landscaped. They're designed to slow traffic to about a 10-mile-per-hour design speed through the intersection. So really is a nice amenity for bicycling, but also really calms the street. The next segment here is 54th Street from Minnehaha to France. The recommended layout is for designated bike lanes. With this design, on-street parking would be maintained on the south side of 54th Street in front of Edina Community Lutheran Church. We also, unfortunately, with this option, in order to meet MSA design standards, we do require the removal of parking on the north side. We do note on here the bike lane stopping about the top of the hill, and this would be in front of the community church. And the reason why we did that is we're going to work with MnDOT State Aid on the potential to allow Sunday morning on-street parking. Maybe a variance from standard, but is a potential option that we're pursuing to maintain parking on Sunday mornings on that stretch of 54th Street. We also in the packet here denoted that we show in our layout the removal of stop signs at Minnehaha Boulevard. Based on feedback and based on the timeline of the study being completed for this intersection, those signs will remain with this project. However, it is being studied with respect to the MUTCD warrants, and the city will then, our engineer will come forward with a recommendation at a later date.
Mike, are you okay with questions during the presentation as they come up, or do you want us to wait until the end? Because I have a question on this section you just talked about.
Sure, I can take questions.
Okay.
Let me go back here.
About how many parking spaces are, when you talk about on the north side, leaving the dedicated bike lanes ending, and then there's a space where it would be share the road, but not otherwise marked. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you talk about working with MnDOT to keep the parking, or to allow Sunday morning parking on the north side, is that for the entire stretch or only for that stretch where there are not going to be marked bike lanes?
Only for this stretch. There's an advantage of for 2 reasons. One, this is a downhill, so from a biking perspective, the momentum is such that bicyclists are moving about the similar speed as the traffic is. So an appropriate design here would be a useful lane type of operation, which then the subset of that is the ability to kind of leave that space open for that flexibility. Now, state aid standard here is 19 feet to allow a vehicle lane and on-street parking. We have 16. So it would be a discussion with state aid on the potential for Sunday morning. I fully expect it would not be approved for full-time because it's 3 feet difference. But for a Sunday morning time period, that may be an option.
And then do you know how many spaces there are in total on the north side, and how many spaces would remain using this design?
The total number of spaces has not been tallied yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. The next segment is 54th Street from Wooddale to Minnehaha. This segment of roadway is considerably narrower than the stretch east of Minnehaha. The design here would be for dedicated bike lanes along the what would be the curb line. In order to accommodate the space, this would require removable on-street parking on both sides of the roadway. Wooddale Avenue from Valley View Road to 50th Street. The recommended design here is what we call an advisory lane, where the street width is such that dedicated bike lanes do not fit. This design here will be able to maintain parking on the east side of Wooddale the full stretch, but it's a slightly better design than a share of the road. Is almost a bike lane facility, and really the key difference between a dedicated bike lane and advisory lane is you see by the exhibit here that the inside longitudinal line of the bike lane is dashed instead of solid, and because of that, that puts us in the category where we need to request an experiment from FHWA to provide this pavement marking scenario. Here's an example of what an advisory lane would look like. This is 14th Street, Minneapolis. Similar conditions, street width, traffic volume. The one difference here with this street segment is the parking is much higher utilized on the 14th Street as opposed to Wooddale. The southern connection here, south of Valley View Road, would utilize Wooddale Avenue over the Ped Bridge, would follow Southdale Road along the park, and then continue Southdale Road to 68th Street onto Cornelia Drive to connect with 70th Street. This will be a share of the road, and it will be designated by signing and route marking only. Pavement markings will not be provided with this.
I have a question about that one. So what would happen with the Ped Bridge? Is it going to just stay in its current form?
Yep. Currently, there is a U-channel, so bicyclists can push their bike up the channel. That's how they can get up there. I think Wade will be able to comment more, but I think there's a future plan that might reconstruct that bridge. Is that correct?
Yep. This would be just a temporary measure to divert the non-type, I suppose, type A and less cyclists to a better location rather than dumping them into the Valley View Road off of that off-ramp and such. So this, what we'd be looking at is, like I say, just a temporary measure. We are also looking at working with MnDOT to replace that bridge, and that's been part of the northerly greater Southdale transportation area is to look at upgrading that bridge with some type of a ramping or a total replacement of the bridge in the near future. We don't have dates identified for it, but it's starting to appear on the radar screen for looking at that for a replacement.
It would be I think it's a big impediment. I mean, I keep my bike in the basement and I haul it up every year. It's actually heavier than I thought. And I just have a hard time imagining people, hauling their bike up the steps and wanting to do that. I mean, some can, and plenty will.
In a lot of cases, it's what I've seen, and especially when I've seen presentations from people like from New York and where they're implementing bikeways and such in environments that you can't get ramps, is in a lot of cases they have the U-channel like we have on it, and they do utilize it. So by pushing your bike up through that U-channel, it's a little bit different than carrying a bike, but each bike will vary depending upon the weight of the bike and such.
I just think that this might be a missed opportunity to combine it with the safe routes to school approach that we're going to be working on, the one that can connect maybe the Cornelia school to the middle school. And I think this just doesn't fit right, I think. I think it needs some work. And I understand that it might be a temporary I actually don't even think it's a very good temporary solution. It's just not going to work for school kids to kind of transport that bike up that. I've used this.
Yep.
I've used this bridge myself. You need an adult, really.
If I could comment back to that, is that keep in mind that the funding that we have is not unlimited. So this, what we're identified down in this area is about where the money runs out. So what we're doing is identifying different routes, alternative, like the Phase 2 routes, and I've asked Alliant to give me a quote of how much, from an engineering perspective, how much their cost would be to study that area, and then I'm hoping to approach the Transfer Liberal Communities to see if they could fund that for us, so that we can continue studying the Phase 2 portion of it, find out exactly what the construction costs are, and then go after additional grants and funding to do that project. But right now, we don't have it in the budget to replace that bridge. But I don't disagree with you that it's not the greatest solution, but it's the only solution we can propose going southward.
So I think the reason I wanted to make my comment is that if we consider this section below, south of the intersection of Wooddale and Valley View, in terms of the overall concept of safe routes to school, there might be a completely different solution to this than the temporary solutions. That what I'd like to avoid is going in the wrong direction with the temporary solution, rather than maybe looking at it from a comprehensive point of view and figuring out what would be the best solution. Maybe an alternative bridge is needed. The pedestrian bridge is not sufficient. Maybe something else is needed. And so, I mean, if there's no funding for it, we can't do anything about it anyway. Why don't we just stop at that intersection and then look at it from a more comprehensive point of view?
Could I weigh in on that? In my memory, beginning last summer, there were conversations about replacing that bridge, and it's a matter of identifying funding for it. And so I really do believe that bridge is on the radar screen now, and it will be, I'm really hoping it will be upgraded. And I think Mike will get into the other part of this project. So my understanding is this is going to take us all the way down Valley View to the northern boundary of 62. And that's Phase 1. So this idea of going over the Ped Bridge is a way now to get people across 62. But this project eventually will have the option of taking people under 62. And when the off-ramp on the south side is, well, Mike will get to it, but this is actually, I think, a pretty good solution for where the money runs out now. And there is fully a plan to continue on with the next phase. But we can only do what we have money for.
Yeah, if we can, I guess let's hold our comments until let Mr. Anderson finish his presentation. I think he's almost through it, and then we can go back and touch on the various pieces that we'd want to. It might make it a little clearer for us all. So thank you.
Yes, as mentioned, the next piece of this is Valley View Road. This stretch of Valley View Road from Wooddale to Highway 62 currently has a 3-lane roadway section. As part of the upfront feasibility study is when we determined that the Phase 2 part of it south of 62 could not be done within the project budget. It does require construction. So this facility would end at 62. The design here would be in the segment from Wooddale to 62nd to maintain the center left turn lane as it's needed for the left turns that occur with the commercial businesses along there. The challenge that we have there, though, is the space is such that dedicated bike lanes cannot be provided. So we do have to do a share the road facility, which is denoted by the Sharrow symbol shown on this exhibit. But the volume of traffic on Valley View is such that we feel that the Sharrow needs to be better enhanced. The recommendation here is to use a green-colored 4-foot wide paint, which would effectively operate as a bike lane. Now, it's technically not a bike lane, Does not require a variance to do this, but the operation of these, where these have been used elsewhere, really do operate very much like a bike lane, and then really enhances the shared lane facility part of it. Because of the green colored paint, this is also a FHW request to experiment that we'll be seeking out. South of 62nd, or southeast of 62nd, continuing on to Highway 62. In this segment here, we are recommending the removal of the center left turn lane. With that, we do have the space to provide designated bike lanes, so the green shared lane will transition directly into the dedicated bike lane, will be of the same width, and then carry this to Highway 62, where then it will terminate as part of this project. Another element to this is we do have one traffic signal at France and 54th. We are intending to provide bike detection at this signal. Without the detection, cyclists would have to navigate up onto the corners, push the push button across the street. With this, what we'd be installing is a wireless puck, they're called. They're about 6-inch diameter, put them in the pavement, and then installing a pavement marker right on top of it, denoting where the bikes are to stop. And that provides the call into the signal controller to give them the green light. They would operate with the vehicle traffic crossing the street. Along the entire bike route itself, we will be providing signing that is lane or route marker signing, also providing wayfinding or destination type signs at key locations. The destination signs will point out geographic features like Lake Cornelia Park or 70th Street, and just provide that extra measure of guidance along the corridor. So we will be seeking council action the May 15th meeting. So what we'll be looking for at that time is for an approval of the staff recommended layout for the bike operations project, such that we can meet the construction date of this fall. Along with that, we're looking for approval of the removal of on-street parking along 54th Street, north side only from Minnehaha to France, and then both sides of 54th Street from Wooddale to Minnehaha. Also looking for approval on the removal of the 2 stop signs at 54th Street and Beard and 54th Street and Drew to accommodate the traffic circles. And then we'll be looking for, I don't believe this requires a council action, but approval in support of us seeking out the request to experiment through FHWA for the advisory lanes on Wooddale and then the Green Sharrow lane on Valley View Road. So that's it. Thank you. I guess we're open for questions and discussion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Are there comments? Jennifer?
I have a few, but I'll just ask one at a time. The green lane section, I have two questions about that. One is there was just an article in the Southwest Journal on the green paint, and could you address the kind of paint that's going to be used so that doesn't happen in Edina? And then my second question is, we accept that the turn lane is needed, but is there data to support that it's needed? Has that data been looked at? Because an alternative would be to remove the turn lane and put regular dedicated bike lanes in instead of the green lanes. So those are my two questions.
The green paint, it's all about cost. Paint that was provided on, I think the article I saw that too, is for just a regular paint, very inexpensive. And with any type of regular paint, whether it's the green marking or yellow, white, they do wear off every year. They need to be remarked. But we are going to explore options, maybe an epoxy style paint, something that's more durable. We're not going to, because it is a request to experiment and it's a considerable amount, we're not going to be looking at the high-end poly preform style markings as high expense, and it is a request to experiment as well. So we are going to be doing that effort to look at what paint might be appropriate here. It's something better than just a run-of-the-mill grade paint. And then regarding the center left turn lane, the engineering had completed a study of Valley View Road, I think this past December, January, regarding the need for the center left turn lane. The feeling there was the data was such that the turn lanes, there's a considerable volume using 62nd Street, lots of turns with the commercial businesses, which is a much different situation than what occurs south of 62nd, which is primarily residential homes. So the number of turns occurring is much less south of 62nd. So it is a more needed facility between Wooddale and 62nd. The specifics of the data I couldn't comment on. I didn't conduct the study. Maybe Wayne could add. Nope. So.
I have a question that I'm asking from the perspective of someone who's not much of a bike rider, probably should be. Maybe this would encourage me to get out there a little more frequently. And also as drivers, I'm looking at all these different sections, and each one seems to have a little bit different treatment. There's green paint here, there's advisory here, there's sharrows there, share the road, exclusive lanes. How intuitive is this for both drivers and bicyclists when they come across all these different markings in different segments?
Well, in a perfect world, they would all be the same. Our challenge is street width. Our goal, as I mentioned in the beginning, our goal, if we have these facilities with upwards 2,000 vehicles or more, we really do want dedicated bike lanes. That's not reality, though, with the street widths. Without reconstructing, you can't make that happen. So that's what puts us in the category of looking at the advisory lane or looking at these other facilities for share the road. What we really want to try to do when we have that situation is try to be least consistent along the roadway segment. So Wooddale is the advisory lane the whole way. I think the one caveat to that would be Valley View Road, with maintaining that center left turn lane between 62nd and Wooddale. We simply can't fit the dedicated lanes in there, so that's where we would have to have the shared facility. And these exist if you drive around Minneapolis. You run across this situation all the time when you're trying to retrofit, where you're going to have block segments where you simply can't meet the standards, and you do have to transition from a bike lane to a share the road and back to a bike lane. Not ideal, but it's a good situation. I think the drivers and the cyclists are adapt to that.
To your question, I would say I don't think they are particularly intuitive. I was on that stretch of 14th Street this morning, and this is the first time I've been on that stretch, and I got to an intersection, and I didn't know, okay, where do I put my car? I'm either in the middle of the road or I've got tires over the advisory dotted line, and I didn't know what to do. And if I go down some of the ones in more of the downtown area, I never know that they look like dedicated lanes. Now when I'm making a left turn, am I supposed to be in that, or am I supposed to? I don't think they're intuitive at all, unless maybe as a transportation commissioner one day I will get instructed on how to do this. But right now I sure don't know how.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think part of the process is education, and I think that's where we come in. Yeah, is it new? Is it going to be different? But yeah, I mean, we're looking at living streets, for example. There's going to be a lot of different things to look at and work with, and part of that is us, really reaching out to the public in different ways. But I agree, it will be confusing for some, just like, when roundabouts were first put out there, people were against them, but now it's slowly coming about. So, yeah, with the funding we have, it'd be nice to have a consistent treatment down the whole corridor, but I think with what we have, it's a good compromise from my perspective.
Actually, this is the reason I was late, because I run a transit company with buses, and we had an incident where it was a bicyclist was transitioning from one section like this to another smaller area. He claimed my bus driver made him go up on the curb because it was too small. He didn't know the regulations. I personally went out there, pretended to be a bicycle. My bus driver did everything he could to be within the width. We have metro mobility-sized buses. He was so teeny tiny for that bicyclist. I understand where he's coming from. I also understand where my bus driver is coming from. So how do you make it a wide stretch education to make sure every possible person understands everybody's doing what they can to be safe? I mean, are people thinking of buses too that are wider than cars? My son attends Edina Montessori, right where those turn lanes are, so I could conduct a study myself. And there's metro mobility buses that go there too. I'd be scared to ride my bike. right there, even with the marked lanes. I don't know how there's a safe enough with the big buses. You can't see a bicyclist. You just can't. And that's what my driver told me today. I can't see him. And this guy was in fluorescent blinking lights. So that was it.
I'd be curious to know where that is, but I won't ask you to
Okay.
tell us here. But tell me if I'm wrong on this. Whether a cyclist is in a lane or not, a car or vehicle still needs to give them 3 feet clearance. Is that correct? And also the other thing is a passenger car is like, what, 5.5 feet? And a bus with mirrors is 8
About 10
feet?
and a half.
Oh, 10 and a half?
Mirror to mirror.
Oh, okay. So, their vehicles aren't quite as wide as we think they are. I like what's been done. I think it will take some education. I think it will take a lot of reminders that right now bicyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles can all be on the road, and vehicles have to yield to pedestrians and bicyclists. That's the law. It's the way it is. And these markings just kind of make that a little bit clearer. And so we've seen this project now, how many times? Maybe four times since it started, and I think you've done a great job. One thing that's not clear to me is you provided these plans tonight, and I don't quite have a picture of what happens after people get off the pedestrian bridge. What's the route that's going to be just signed, share the road, or route sign?
What we'll be using there when they get off the bridge will be a confirmation sign. That'll be the route marker sign. And that's the green circle with the arrow. One of the things that we're looking at with engineering is putting a banner on that would give a name to the route. So immediately coming off the bridge, you're going to see that sign. We'll locate that with a share the road sign, and then we'll give them another confirmation further down, and then they'll follow that, and they'll get to 66th Street and see their confirmation there on where to go. So that's the intention of the signing.
And where is that? They're going on 66, and then is it Cornelia, or what is it?
We are going to sign them across 66 to follow Southdale Drive to 68th Street, and then use 68th Street over to Cornelia Drive, and then Cornelia Drive to 70th.
So when Wooddale ends, going south of Valley View there, we're taking them on that little path?
That is correct.
Is there any work that's being done to the path as part of this project, or are you just using it as is?
Using the path as is will just be signed with the confirmation bike route sign.
Aren't we on the frontage road?
The path north side of Highway 62. There's
Oh, yeah.
about a
Yep. Yeah, that
800-foot
the pathway.
stretch.
We'll take a look at it. I think it needs a thin overlay on it to bring
There's
anybody
roots.
across that. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep, that probably just, like I say, just needs normal maintenance. So.
Other comments?
So just wanted to, Mr. Hole, if you could let me know, where is the temporary part start? At Wooddale and Valley View? Is that where the temporary part
Yep.
starts?
That's correct. At Wooddale and Valley View is that we would have it signed as an alternate route, and we'd indicate that somehow, I'm not quite sure how we're going to do this, but there'll be some indication or some type of signage saying that the dedicated bikeway stops at Trunk Highway 62, so that people know that this is a safer route in relativity to proceeding down Valley View Road and trying to navigate through the off ramps and by 65th Street all the way down to 70th Street.
So there'll be indication telling people, don't go on Valley View, take this alternative route instead, this is safer.
Right. Well, we'll give them, like I say, we still have to work out the signage on it, but our intent is to give people a safer alternative route rather than sending them down Valley View Road. Like I say, the upper bikers are the ones that are out there on a more regular basis. They they do it today, and they still will go down Valley View Road, navigate through those areas. But what we're looking at is more of the family bikers and younger kids, that is to route them down straight south and by the park and then around to Southdale Road. Give them, like on Southdale Road across 66, is give them opportunities at marked crosswalks that if they need to, just to get off the bike and walk them across, so they have, you know, the stoppage of vehicles and stuff like that in those areas.
I just want to be sure that neither of these routes are going to be safe for elementary or middle school children, in my opinion, because neither of them, safe slash convenient, I guess. I mean, they'll still have to, I mean, you're basically expecting 6th, 7th, 8th grader to pick up their bike and walk it up, and if they take that route over the pedestrian bridge, and I think many of us would agree that the Valley View Road part is extremely unsafe for children to navigate on their own. So I appreciate all this work, and since I'm a new member to this commission, I don't want to take too much of the time here. I think as Commissioner Genevieve pointed out, this has been done many times here, been presented many times here. But I just want the city and us to look at the point of where the temporary thing starts as a different way, look at it in terms of the safe route to school. So there's Concord that's going next to the middle school complex, and then, you know, Cornelia Drive that's going to Cornelia Elementary, and there's got to be some better way that we can connect these two eventually.
If I could comment, I think one thing we could do too to think about this is perhaps in pieces. Maybe I would agree that it's inconvenient for children to cross the bridge, tough to put the bike up the stairs. But you might think of it in the context of the southern end. You do have a nice connection that provides access from the park to the residential neighbors to the south. And a residential street like South Lawn and Cornelia Drive, that's the type of street we want. That's the type of street we want the elementary, middle school kids to be biking on. So it provides them that connection. So you guys can look at it from that perspective. And then also to address one of your questions, if you look at page 7 of here, one of the options that we're looking at is with the destination signing. So a cyclist coming southbound on Wooddale, they would see a wayfinding sign that says Lake Cornelia Park, 70th Street, straight ahead. So that would send them down Wooddale as opposed to Valley View. And so a cyclist not choosing that, they'll come on to Valley View and they'll see the bike lane sign. We'll put a plaque underneath there that says ends at Highway 62. So for the time being, that's how we're intending on addressing that.
I have a comment, I guess, on right in that area we're talking about from Valley View, where it turns off Wooddale to Valley View. That's where we're keeping the center lane there for half of the distance down to Crosstown roughly, and then it's turning into the green lanes. Is that correct?
Yes, the center lane it's about 1,000 feet to 62nd Street.
Okay.
At 62nd, that's where we'll transition to the 2-lane.
It seems like that's since that's one of the areas that's maybe designated for higher, more advanced bikers, that we might have the similar treatment between there and maybe keep the center lane all the way down and use the same treatment all the way, or eliminate the center lane all the way. Just having it different in that one segment seems confusing. Probably more to motorists than cyclists, but I guess that's my one concern there. And then my other concern is we're not doing anything to the roadway, essentially, between curb to curb. We're not expanding the roadway in any way.
That's correct.
Due to the budget concerns mainly.
That's correct, yep.
And there was a concern in the audience about the parking along 54th at Wooddale. We talked to Tracy. We did some bump out options and things like that. That would obviously be taking some of the right of way expanding the right-of-way a little bit. Are there any options to do anything like that?
Yeah, at this time with the project budget, reconstruction of curb lines is not in the project. Regarding 54th Street, maybe there's opportunity with the 2014 reconstruction to look at the width. So that's an option. With this, what we're trying to do is provide a bike lane facility on 54th Street that would be compatible and effectively be what you'd put on with the reconstruction, so it's consistent. Just that you have the opportunity to get the widths correct to make the facility function a little bit better.
Okay.
If I could add too, on 54th Street, we looked at that very similarly to some other projects that we've done in the past, like 58th Street, where we took off parking and put dedicated bike lanes between France and York. And then along Interlochen Boulevard, where we took off some parking and put dedicated bike lanes. And the philosophy behind that is that, especially on 54th between Wooddale and the creek, is that those homes have it's their side yards, so it's not their front yard. So they still have the ability to park in front of their homes along there, and that's the way we looked at it for those other projects and with 54th Street itself. So we've actually done this in other parts of the city, and it's been approved by council. That's why we looked at that rather than waiting to 2014, because even if you wait till 2014, if you're trying to place dedicated bike lanes, 2 travel lanes, and potential sidewalk or sidewalks, depending on which way you go, there's no more room in the right-of-way to add a parking lane on either one of the sides of that roadway without acquiring property, and then you're right up against homes.
All right. Any other comments?
I just have one comment on wayfinding signs, and that is that I think wayfinding signs need some discussion in Edina. Catherine forwarded an article just this week from North Carolina about the pedestrian distance to destination signs. So I think we need, and the mayor brought this up at our joint work session on Tuesday, I think that we need to do some thinking about wayfinding signs, identifying the names of routes. And so I just want to put that out there, that it's not moved forward on until we've had a chance to do that thinking. Certainly the standard signs should go up, but the ones that are unique to Edina might need some thought. Just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, I know we've been talking about this project for some time, and I know Steve Clark is here as well. I don't know, Steve, do you have any comments?
Just I think Alliant and the city of Edina. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Steve Clark. I would like to say that I think Mike with Alliant and Wayne and the city of Edina have done a really fine job with these set of plans. I think there were some challenges. They really looked at best practices, and to me the question is, as a funder, are we making conditions better for bicyclists and pedestrians, and really for the residents, or are we making something that's going to be more confusing? And the answer clearly here is this is going to benefit people. This does improve the conditions for bicyclists. It will make it much safer. It will encourage more people probably to try bicycling, and so we're pleased with the progress here, and yeah, I think even I know at one time I had come here and I advocated for dropping that center lane on Valley View, but in thinking about it a little bit more with the conditions that are out there, if you do have a significant number of left-turning motorists using that center lane today, and I think you do, what sometimes can happen is because you put in with a room for bike lanes, people become impatient. If you didn't have that center lane and you just had the bike lanes, a lot of motorists would have a tendency to to try to swerve around somebody that's stopped to make a left-hand turn and actually go into that bike lane and not always see the bicyclists that might be in the bike lane. So in some ways, you know, the center turn lane in this case, I think, is a good measure, and in fact there is room for what I think will work pretty well as you know, advisory bike lanes at that location. Further down, you don't really need the center lane. There won't be many turning motorists, and there's room, a little bit more room, so that we don't worry so much about the bike lane infringement. So anyway, I want to just thank Mike for doing a great job with these plans, and I would encourage you to support this.
Catherine?
Following up on Steve's comments and Suri's comments, I think, is this perfect for cyclists? No. Is it perfect for motorists? Maybe no. But I think it moves us forward, and we have a long way to go in the city to make sure that we're accommodating all modes more safely and in a welcoming way. And I think this is a step in the right direction. It's going to be a long time before we get to the ultimate goal of where we want to be, but I think this is a good step forward. And I do want to say that I think I really appreciate your attention to the needs of kids in the community, and I think we should be clear that we wouldn't want children under a certain age biking in the street on their own anyway. That developmentally they're not prepared to do that. But I think that the presence and the addition of some of these treatments is going to make it safer for those that can navigate in the street, and that's an important thing.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I appreciate your comments. I just also wanted to make sure that my comments are interpreted as I do want as many lanes and roads that have bike access on them. I just don't want this to be the one solution for southeast Edina to access northeast Edina, for example. This cannot be a either or. This is great, but I think we need a plan for the safe routes to school, which would be the real connector. Because kids, even the kids who are older, who can use, really are going about 1.5 miles east and then coming back 1.5 miles to really go across that trunk Highway 62, which is, I think, quite a bit of a burden. All right, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Could I make a motion?
Please.
I'd move the project as presented, with the one caveat. I know Edina Community Lutheran Church, that's still an issue that's kind of ongoing, is to just consider the variance for possibly parking on Sundays only on the north side between Halifax and Minnehaha to perhaps address that.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Do we want to do an advisory communication, or is the recommendation simple and clear enough to go as is? Okay.
All right, thank you. Next up is item 6B, the Gallagher Drive roadway and 9 Mile Creek Regional Trail Improvement presentation. Director Houle.
Okay, Chair and Commission members, tonight we want to present a different project that's been on our to-do list for a couple years here. It's the Gallagher Drive roadway and 9 Mile Creek Regional Trail improvements. the Gallagher Drive roadway was kind of initiated by a petition from adjoining a large property owner a few years ago, and we actually had it in our capital plan for 2011, summer 2011. We started getting into it, and it was a little bit more work, and the roadway was fairly wide, and at that time, shortly before that, the Three Rivers Trail, or Three Rivers Park District actually had and the city of Edina had came up with an alignment for their Three Rivers 9-mile Creek Regional Trail improvements, or trail. So we thought, well, this would give us a good opportunity, even though we were looking at doing a mill and overlay on the roadway, to maybe move a curb line over and incorporate the trail at least for the first block. So it would be the first segment, kind of connects into the going through the promenade area, and then the trail is actually virtually completed over in Richfield. So with that, we asked SEH to Short, Elliott, and Henriksen, the consulting firm, to work with us on it. They had really good ties to Three Rivers Park District that they've done a lot of work for. So it was kind of a natural to pull those two entities together. So tonight I have Toby Moose from SEH who will give the presentation. And we also have Kelly Grissman with us from Three Rivers Park District that can answer questions when we get to the question and answer period. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Toby Moose, and Toby can go through the presentation, and then we can entertain some questions afterwards. Thanks.
Thanks, Wayne. Chair and members of the commission, my name is Toby Muse again. I'm from our Minnetonka office with SEH. I'm the project manager for this project. And as Wayne mentioned, the city hired us to take a look at the feasibility of adding this trail to the segment of Gallagher Drive. This is a location of the project with the limits terminating on the west right-of-way line of France Avenue and the north right-of-way line of Parklawn Avenue. So we're just looking at this segment of Gallagher Drive as part of this project's feasibility study. As Wayne mentioned, the project was initiated through a petition by the adjoining property owner, and as he also mentioned, it is identified as a corridor for Three Rivers Park District's 9-mile Creek Regional Trail. Talk a little bit about the existing conditions of the street. It's included within the city's municipal state aid roadway system. It was constructed in 1971, and generally there's 6 to 7 inches of pavement on this segment of Gallagher Drive that's overlying sandy soil. The existing street width is approximately 42 feet from the face of curb to face of curb with concrete curb and gutter and 5-foot sidewalks on both sides of the street. No parking condition exists. There are 10 commercial driveway entrances. Currently there are no pedestrian crossings, and there is no roadway lighting present. This is the graphic on the slide here is from Metro Transit's website, and you'll notice an X through one of the bus stops. It actually isn't located there. It's located about 150 feet south of that location. I have some bad artwork, but I tried to sketch in a bus stop there. There are 5 total Metro Transit bus stops on this route, 2 on the east side, 2 on the west side, and then 1 on the upper, or I guess on the south side up near France Avenue. In addition, there's an existing horizontal curve along Gallagher Drive, as you can see on the curved portion going from north to east, that is 180-foot radius along the center line of the roadway. Now that center line radius does not meet the minimum state aid standards for horizontal curves for a 30-mile-an-hour roadway. The minimum standard set by state aid is 300 foot. Again, this is 180 foot, so it's about 120 foot shy of the standard. Talk a little bit about the proposed improvements. Staff will soon approach the council for resolution to pursue a variance to request from state aid a variance for this existing 180-foot curve that I just spoke about. If that is approved, then these proposed improvements would be in play. If the variance is granted, Gallagher Drive would be narrowed from the east and the south side of the roadway. to create a 28-foot wide street. And in place of the old, where bituminous is now today, in its place would go a 9-foot boulevard and the 9 Mile Creek Regional Trail, which is proposed to be 10 feet wide. For illustration purposes, I've shown on the graphic here some dashed red lines that represent where the existing street section is today, to kind of give you a feel for where the trail and the swale will eventually fall based on existing conditions. In addition, in the feasibility study, we're proposing to mill and overlay the remaining pavement that's left along Gallagher Drive, also implement barrier concrete curb and gutter along the east and south side with curb cuts to allow street drainage to drain into the swale. Existing curb and gutter on the west and north side would remain as is, no proposed improvements there. Concrete driveway aprons would be installed on affected driveways, and again, the no parking condition would be enforced and is proposed. A few more proposed improvements, moving the bus stop location that's located on the east side of Gallagher Drive near that horizontal curve. We're proposing to move that south along Gallagher Drive to essentially be right across the street from the one that's on the west side. What that'll do is it'll help sight distances for vehicle drivers when they're trying to go northbound on Gallagher Drive, and or having a bus stop not right at the curve. If we can move buses south of that curve to stop, pull over to the side of the road, and pick people up, it presents a little bit safer condition. We're also proposing to incorporate a pedestrian crossing just south of that bus stop that we're going to be moving that I just talked about, and the approximate location is shown here on the graphic. But the crossing will be made of a reflective white marking that would, it's almost like a print that gets embedded into the bituminous. An example of that is shown on the slide here in the photo.
Excuse me, can I interrupt you for a second? Just, can I ask a quick question? I think the bus stops that you showed in the previous slide, I guess the original intent, I don't know, I can't guess what the original intent was, but I can speculate maybe it was halfway between Park Lawn and Gallagher and France and Gallagher. So there's bus stops at the bottom, there's bus stops at the top, and the original locations were approximately center. So now you're pushing them down. So
we're proposing to push one down. One is existing today on the west side already.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, is that make it more inconvenient for people who are living between the two red bus stops and the two bus stops on France and Gallagher to now have to walk a little longer? I don't have there's no scale here, so I can't judge.
Sure.
Is it, half a mile or a quarter mile they have to walk more?
No,
I can't tell.
The entire segment is about 1,500 feet,
Okay.
and we're talking about maybe 100 feet or so.
Okay. So it's very
150
small.
feet, yeah,
Right.
it's not a significant distance.
Ignore my question. Thank you.
Yep. This table is a chart of the preliminary project costs. The three funding sources, the city total project cost is $472,000 in 2012 dollars. City utility funds would cover approximately $6,000 of that total. State aid would carry the majority of the funding on this project for $346,000, and Three Rivers Park District would be responsible for the regional trail piece at about approximately $120,000. No assessments are proposed to adjacent property owners as part of this project. I should note that as well. The anticipated schedule, we held an open house on March 27th. Tonight we're at the Transportation Committee meeting. Now the public hearing and a resolution for a state aid variance is scheduled for May 15th, and contingent upon receiving the state aid variance or going to the State Aid Variance Committee meeting, if that resolution is passed on May 15th by the council, We would then go to the State Aid Variance Committee meeting on June 28th. Provided that the state aid or the variance is received, we would move into bid document production, and a bid opening would be scheduled right around the beginning of August, with an award of a contract 2 weeks later, and construction beginning in September and likely ending middle to end of November. That's it. I'll take any other questions you may have.
Are there any questions? Please, Ann.
Yeah, yes, I did. We actually had a site meeting with their designated engineer that is in charge of bus stop locations and coordinating and communicating with residents if something is going to move. I was told I met with the right person for that. And they're okay with it as long as, in fact, they like the idea of moving that bus stop to the south as well, just for safety reasons alone. As we mentioned, from a pedestrian standpoint, having people walk another 150 feet, it's really only the people on the north side that would have to walk a little bit farther. The people on the south side now would actually get they'd be a little bit closer to that bus stop.
And these were just bus stops, not bus shelters with lights or anything?
That's correct.
If I could add also on that is that we've been working with the Cedars of Edina, and they're the major property owner that flanks both sides of the roadway there. They have about 1,000 units, I believe, apartments. About a fourth of them are located on the east side. And so we've been working with them to where to place that crosswalk, because their athletic or their physical or fitness activities are all on the west side of the road. So those 250 units have to cross the roadway to get to their pool and tennis courts and all the other activities. So we wanted to make sure that we put it in a place where they're actually going to be utilizing that crosswalk to get over to that side of the roadway. In doing so, that kind of forced that bus, looking at where that bus stop is, so that if somebody was switching buses or utilizing the crosswalk for getting to and from the buses, that it was close by. So we were kind of lining all these items up with the owners and the Metro Transit to make sure that it all works well together.
I have a follow-up transit-related question. Can you help me understand, help me see what the pads will look like if they're like 5 by 8 bus landing pads, right? How will that?
Yes.
How does that fit in when you've got the 9-foot boulevard and you've got a swale? Just help me picture it. I'm
Sure,
having a hard time.
it's a good question. The swale itself would essentially end at those locations. We don't have enough room to include the swale and then put in a bus pad and then put in a trail, for instance. So the bus pad would be right behind the back of the curb of the roadway, and then right behind the bus pad would be the trail with a 2-foot separation from the edge of the bus pad to where the edge of the trail starts. And the swale itself, to continue drainage in the area, we'd have to put a small diameter pipe underneath the bus stop in order to keep things to continue to drain.
Okay. Then, for people who will use that trail as their sidewalk to the bus stop, and for people who might bike to the bus, do they just step over the 2 feet of grass? That's one question. Related to that is there any thought of joining those two, or if that's possible?
Yeah,
And
I'm sorry.
oh no, and just the second question was bike parking talked about with Metro Transit to provide at least bike parking at one of these stops?
Okay. First question is, we've talked about that. We've talked about, I guess, introducing a dedicated pathway. And as Wayne mentioned, there's some units on the east side that use this bus stop quite a bit. And one thought is, we're in schematic design phase right now, but as we refine the design, if we continue to move forward and we get the variance, one thought is to make an actual dedicated walkway right across the trail. Maybe it's concrete versus the bituminous pathway that will be there for the trail, and it will lead right into the bus stop area. But we will have something that will designate a walkway to get you from one side of the trail across the trail to the bus stop, yes.
And is that for all, are there 3 on the east-south
Yes.
side? So that goes for all 3 of
It'd
them?
be consistent throughout, yes.
Okay, and bike parking?
Bike parking was not discussed. My understanding is there's a bike rack on the southeast bus stop. The others, there is none today. It is something I can talk to Metro Transit about, definitely.
We can actually add that to the plans if you wish. That's a great idea. We hadn't thought of extending that landing pad to incorporate bike parking or bike racks, but we easily could do that. Yep.
I just have sorry, go ahead.
The question, on the swale, is that just finished with grass? Is that what goes in the swale, or is there anything else?
We're actually working on the portion with Cedars of Edina is that we would provide topsoil, the topsoil that's required for the swale, and actually they would finish it off with the same type of vegetation and look that they have on their facility.
Nice.
That they've actually gotten rid of most of their turf on their facility, have gone to rain gardens and pine trees and stuff like that. So it's gives it it's a really nice up north feel to that facility, and so we would work with them so that it would kind of blend into their area.
I have a general question. I think, I don't know who to address it to Director Hull or Mr. Muse, but in terms of local resident feedback, input, I see that there's about 6 people who attended the open house, and all the addresses are Park Lawn Avenue, even though the construction or the change is being made on Gallagher. Just curious, is there some kind of for a sample size that you consider valid, as you've got enough resident or feedback from people who live around there that you can say that, yep, we got enough feedback from residents?
I would say that on virtually all of our projects, we send out notices to the people that are affected. In the previous cases that we went a couple blocks on either side of the alignment of Valley View and Wooddale. So that was about that particular mailing was about 750, actually about 748 because I helped out stuff in those. But on this one, we included the major property owners, and then the ones that you see on Park Lawn, actually that's their side yard, and so that included all of the condominium owners. And we hosted the open house down at the Hughes Pavilion at Centennial Lakes, so that people could actually walk to the open house, and that's really all we had. So we've never gone to saying we need this many people to show up and give us their opinion, and then we can move forward to the projects that we've offered informational meetings, open houses, give people an opportunity to give input to the project, and that's where we're at with our typical process today, I guess.
Michael? Oh, you're good.
I'll move the proposed.
We can catch it during.
Sorry. So this is a question for Mr. Houle or maybe the representative from Three Rivers, but I noted in the study that roadway lighting does not currently exist on the road, and it's not planned for this project either. I'm just wondering if Three Rivers has plans to light the trail, or I'd just love to hear anything about that.
Mr. Chair, fellow commission members, Three Rivers Park District currently does not light any of our regional trails. We would defer to the local jurisdiction which the trail is located, and if they desired some type of pedestrian level lightings, we would ask them to implement and pay for that improvement. We have 100 miles of regional trail, and in all cases where there is pedestrian level lighting, that was implemented by a different agency.
That was actually one of my questions, because the lighting, I'm not was lighting evaluated? And I think we don't have standards yet for pedestrian level lighting, but we've got the promenade right up across France Avenue. We're going to be getting people there, And it could, maybe bring some of that same lighting treatment onto Gallagher. And, I really would like consideration of lighting.
If I could answer that, when we looked at this, like I say, it started out as a mill and overlay project, and we have a little bit of project creep, including the trail on it. If it was a total reconstruction, we definitely would look at it. The one thing that we possibly could do is look at putting conduits in the ground. That's fairly inexpensive, and then look at doing another project in the future that would have a lighting project to look at once we establish those standards.
Could those be included? I mean, do you think it would make sense to include the conduits now? Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I think we would look at putting a conduit in that 2-foot area underneath that area as we're doing the project.
Okay.
And just absorb the cost somewhere in there.
I have a couple more. I have one real simple question and then one just explanation. Will there be a center line on this? And the reason I ask is that the BETF, Bike Task Force, talked about this at their last meeting, and there were some comments that some members would like an on-street bike facility. And so I'll just throw that out there. But then it made me wonder, will there be a center line? Will the travel lanes be defined on this? And then the second thing is the curve. I'm having a hard time picturing the curve. When you move the curb line in, how many feet? Almost 20 feet? No. Help me out here. Like 15 feet. What does that do to the curve? Does it make it a lot more deliberate of a turn? Mm-hmm. Can you describe that? Because I don't think the pictures really show that.
Sure. In terms of the center line of the roadway, the center line of the roadway is shifting to the west and to the north on the roadway itself. So the curve it'll essentially maintain where it's at today size-wise. It'll get a little bit bigger as it moves west and north, and it will get tighter on the inside of the curve. Not enough that it is going to affect vehicle movements or pedestrian or trail user movements, but it will get smaller on the inside, and it'll actually increase as it moves outward. I don't know if that answers your question.
I can answer that, because I think what you're getting at is the striping of the center line.
There's two separate questions. One is the center line going to be striped, and then completely unrelated to that is a description of the curve.
Yep. The center line, what we're anticipating is that we wouldn't stripe the center line on the straightaways, but at the curb is that we would stripe it to keep people on their side of the road. But I think the trend is going to be going is that on these lower volume roadways is that we're going to start deleting the center line skip dashes on a lot of these roadways.
I had one comment, and I'm not sure, I don't want to prolong this, but I don't know who it's for really, just about landscaping, and it looks like it's hard to tell from the pictures we've seen, but it appears there's quite a few trees affected. And the budget doesn't really explain, it's not detailed enough to show landscaping, but I assume landscaping is being put back in where it's being removed, landscaping being the trees and whatnot.
No trees are proposed to be impacted as part of the project.
Oh, okay. Right, that answers it. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I'd be happy to move this, approval of this as presented with 3 comments. One, that the transit stops be, help me out here, connected to the trail. As you described, to make that clear, I think it would be beneficial to the council if that were made very clear, and that the bike parking be included. So that's number 1. Number 2, that the conduit for the lighting be included and hopefully reviewed sooner rather than later for actual installation of lighting. And number 3, there was something else important that we talked about. Lighting, transit stops, and Okay, good enough. If I can't
Talk about
remember it,
stripe,
then.
but I mean,
Yeah, but Wayne just said that's going to be
Yeah.
kind of the standard. Yeah.
I will second your motion.
great, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Muse, thank you. Okay, on to number 6C, the Transportation Options Working Group. Looking for election of a co-chair, and I believe Commissioner Janovoy has some comments.
So we formed this last September. The council gave us approval for this working group. At that time, Aylin Scholl-Davis was a member of the commission, and she's no longer on the commission, but she's been continuing as chair. But our bylaws require that we have a chair from the commission, and I've talked with Courtney. Courtney has volunteered to step in, and so on the desk tonight is a description of what the Transportation Options Working Group does, just to refresh people's memories. And then in bold, you'll find the section on chair. And so in keeping with our bylaws, I'd like to nominate Courtney as the chair of the working group. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Oops, sorry. I was over enthusiastic second here.
All right, thank you.
And discussion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Or further nominations, I guess?
Yeah, and I'll have a follow-up.
Okay,
I'll move to close nominations.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, Jennifer?
I don't know how this works. Well, and then our bylaws allow then the chair to nominate a co-chair, and Aylin wants to continue, so I don't know if that should be part of this motion or a separate motion.
Would that be something that the working group does internally, or is it done from,
Well, I
This
think we have
does.
to nominate, I think we have to elect Courtney chair of the working group, and then she would nominate Aylin as the co-chair, and I just wanted to make that clear so that nobody thought that Aylin wasn't going to continue, because she is.
Chair and Commissioner, I would assume we vote and make her chair so they can take a second different motion
Right.
as hers the new chair.
correct, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, I elect to make a motion to elect Elin as the co-chair of the Transportation Options Group.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. Moving along to updates. Student member Stephen is here tonight. Do you have any comments, or want to make any comments about what's going on at school or traffic? Okay, thank you. The Bike Edina Task Force, March 8th, 2012 minutes were included in our packet. Jennifer, do you have any comments on that?
So let people know there's a bike rodeo this Saturday, April 21st, 10 o'clock till noon at Cornelia School. And it's mainly for children, but parents are welcome, and it's a learning opportunity for everybody. And then there's a new feature on the Bike Edina website, bikeedina.org, and every few weeks or so there'll be a new article on a biking topic. So check it out.
Yes, Courtney.
I do have a question on this item. If you look at number 4, letter C, it says 58th Street improvements. They're expanding the bike lanes to 5 feet. Is there any further information on that? What the hope is for that?
I'm unaware of that. I'll have to look into that and get back to you. Yep.
All right, thanks.
Oh, you know what that might be related to, Wayne? Isn't 58th on the reconstruction schedule? Maybe that refers to when it's going to be reconstructed.
It could be, but like I say, I'm sorry, but I didn't have a chance to go through those minutes. I could put that on for next time to get back to do a little bit of research and see what they're actually talking about.
Okay, thank you. Grandview, small area study. I guess that's me. The council meeting last Tuesday night, the one that ran for 5 hours and 45 minutes, one of the first topics that was discussed was that, and I'm happy to report that it was unanimously adopted by the framework was adopted by the council. In talking with Kevin Staunton on that, it sounds like perhaps there's no real motion or movement forward on this yet, but I'm thinking that that's going to be coming back to us and to all the different commissions for review and their comment in the future. So I think we'll just want to keep that in mind, and as we move forward, we'll be hearing more about it as the council directs us to do so. So again, you may remember that Mr. Staunton did give us a presentation back in March, and a lot of those things were continued on in the framework. So I'm pleased to say that the framework was adopted.
Thanks for your work.
You're welcome. That is all I have on that update. The France Avenue pedestrian crossing improvements update.
I can
Director Holt.
take that one. We're on our way to designing the France Avenue pedestrian crossings. As you know, that the rescoping was approved. In the packet, as I included the scope from WSB that was approved by the City Council to move forward with this project. Part of that scope that we had presented to the City Council did not include a landscape architect. They had a spot budgeted for a landscape or urban designer for that, but they had not identified a firm when we brought it forward to the City Council. So that was a discussion point at the City Council. And what we wanted to do is bring forward a proposed urban designer firm that just, and what I had indicated to the City Council is that I would bring it forward to the Transportation Commission to see what your opinion would be of this firm. They've done a search around the area, including Wisconsin and such, and it's really difficult for this size project to actually bring in firms from national type firms into the picture. So they kind of look more internal to Minnesota, and actually the LHB group seems to be a good fit for an urban designer, landscape architectural firm. And so what I'd like is some discussion amongst the commission if this is, and granted we didn't have this information when the packets went out, but I wanted to talk a little bit about it tonight and see what your thoughts were about this firm going forward with it. They do have some good examples of some urban planning that they have done in the Midwest here towards the middle to the end of their packet, and then they also have people staff that would be working on the project. And actually, one of the director of urban design and planning actually lives just to the west of France Avenue. I've reviewed it, and I would support if you're supportive of going forward with this firm for this project. The other item that I want to talk about is we do have some stakeholder meetings coming up, and I would like to is actually schedule those as potential special meetings of the Transportation Commission, and then pull in the key stakeholders in the area that would be like the county. We would have the commercial area. We'd have some residents that would, if they were interested in showing up to work at the kind of bounce ideas off at the stakeholder meetings. The project timeline on this is real aggressive. In order for us to be underway or have the approvals in place by March 31st of next year. So that's one reason why we're kind of proceeding a little bit differently than we've done on other projects, such as when we did the West 70th Street study that we went out for RFPs and such, is that we didn't feel that there was enough time to go through that process and keep everything online so that we would make those deadlines. So with that, I'd like to say, I think from a staff perspective, I'd like to know, one is are you okay with us going forward with this urban design firm? Then two is talk a little bit about the stakeholder meetings and potential special meetings that we could schedule with this group and include all the other stakeholders.
Okay, I have one question, I guess, in response to the dollars involved in this contract. There must be a city policy among, bidding it out if there is a certain level of dollars. Is that a concern, I guess, for staff?
Actually, there isn't a policy for professional services under state statute. Is that you're not required to go out for RFPs on professional services. So on a lot of our professional services is that we on typical projects that we do, we ask basically we've always taken the approach that we're asking the experts to give us proposals on items. Anything that's over $20,000 per our local policy, we need to have city council approval. So any professional services that are above $20,000, we bring forward to the city council for approval. Otherwise, you can handle it at a staff level.
Okay. Any comments?
This is included in the $262,000 contract with WSB. Are they subcontracting, or will this be in addition?
This is the urban design portion is included in their contract. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you're just taking general feedback on it?
Yeah.
For me, it's really hard to tell based on what we have in front of us. Well, first of all, I watched the council meeting in which they really stressed that they needed a stronger urban design component for this project. And they stressed that did not mean landscaping. It didn't just mean, trees and flowers. But yet they didn't really say what they were meaning by urban design. And so when I take that and then I also look at what's provided here, it's hard to know how this is being envisioned. What is being meant by urban design, and how exactly is this group going to fulfill it? So that's my first comment. And then my second comment, even though the principal involved in this project, I think we all know him, and I have very high regard for him, so that's not the issue at all. I get a little bit uncomfortable when contracts go out to people who have a close association with the city. He's a planning commission member. He's extremely talented. He sat on this group for a while. But I still get a little bit uncomfortable. I think there's a lot of times value to getting outside perspectives. So just want to throw that out there.
I just commenting on the first thing that you said, Jennifer, about it's hard to know from what we're looking at, and it's hard to know, I guess, when the council says urban design, what do they mean? And to a certain degree, I feel like having observed conversations, it's kind of like you know what you like when you see it. And I think we do sort of run the risk, because we have these three crossings and sort of, not within a broader context of a plan. So I guess I would obviously the consultants, I guess, are going to refer back to, other documents that are in existence. And at least we have that 2009 study that looked at a broader segment of the corridor to provide some sort of vision about what we're wanting to see along France. But I think just as an observation, it could be tough because we are not working within sort of a broader framework here.
Okay, also, Wayne, you mentioned that some of the folks from the Transportation Commission would be involved in this process as we move forward as well. So I think we'd have some input as we go forward as well. So are there other comments? You're not really looking for a motion or anything from us?
No, I guess, even as we move forward, is this something that you should be creating a working group for to, because we'll have the stakeholder meetings, but is this something that we'd want a smaller subset to be right with me and the design firm as we're going forward with this? That would work more often than just getting together with the 2 stakeholder group meetings, or?
Is it part of a different, I seem to remember maybe 4 or 5 months ago, or maybe it was even longer than that, a direction from the council saying that we were to explore looking at France more holistically as a corridor, so maybe it does make sense to do, I mean, obviously this particular project needs to continue to move forward, but if at least we were working sort of in parallel, and moving forward that conversation, looking more at the corridor holistically. And I don't know if that's something else that's coming that I'm not aware of, but I'm remembering that direction that was given a number of months ago.
I like the idea of having the stakeholder meetings include the entire Transportation Commission as a special meeting. I also think it might be good to have a couple of people on the Transportation Commission be part of that core group. So I don't know if it's a working group, but it's more I think that because this is the fact that we have this project was really, I think, pushed and led by this group. And I think that a couple of members of this group should be part of the core team. And I was going to suggest a member of the Planning Commission too, but if this is the urban design firm that's chosen, he'll already be there. So, that's what I would recommend. And I just want to say, I would really appreciate the opportunity to stay involved, but because this was something that I worked very hard on.
Is that something we can do? I mean, can we not form an active working group, but have a couple commission members on that?
I believe so. I'll have to go back and look at the bylaws, but I think you can have up to...
Is there anybody else that would be interested? It sounds like Jennifer is.
Yep.
Ann? Okay. Well, I guess we'd move forward that those 2 get included if possible. If there's a problem with that, we can address it maybe next month.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
You good? Oh, okay. All right, next up we have the Living Streets Working Group update. Commissioner Michael Thompson is going to give us a brief presentation.
All right, am I live here? All right, thank you. As you know, I'm the working group chair for the Living Streets, and I just wanted to give a quick high-level overview of where we're at with the process. As you know, the ETC started discussing Living Streets back in early 2011. We had discussions. We moved forward the idea to the City Council via resolution. They did support that. And then we kind of moved into the next phase where we had selected a working group made up of 4 members, myself, Paul, Jennifer, and Bob McLevine. And Bob is no longer on the commission. But that was the kind of the core group. And over the past months, our first kickoff meeting was December 8th. And then we met again in March 30th. And in between there, we had a great workshop that was held. The city put that on. Ryan Snyder, who helped develop the LA County policy of Living Streets, presented with one of his cohorts, and that was a very insightful workshop. And again, just why are we looking at Living Streets? Really, it's a visioning process. What do we want Edina to look like, 50 years down the road? Yeah, this is going to take time to see. It's not going to be something overnight, but it's a great visioning exercise in really looking at all different components. So safe walking and biking options, really looking at the whole network, connecting the network, having travel options for various users, a great opportunity for engagement in education. It could have components of landscaping, art, aesthetics, really having a community identity or a feel. Maybe that's for a neighborhood. Maybe there's a theme for the entire city. But also a big component would be stormwater, sustainability, infiltration, improving the urban forest or the canopy in the city, which has a number of benefits. And also important is looking at neighborhood solutions to traffic concerns. And that last bullet item there is really living streets as an opportunity to look at safe routes to school policy. That can be dovetailed into this. Looking at improving networks to parks, that could be part of this. Also, as you know, we have the neighborhood traffic management plan that's not really being used. And perhaps, this living streets policy has techniques to actually address concerns of neighbors where we could actually have different design templates or things to use that make sense and that are easy to apply. So really, it's something that it's a community-based vision. It promotes active living, health and wellness, do town. So there's a lot of things to move forward with here. And an important piece is really syncing up a lot of different policies that are out there. Just a quick update on the progress. The city has selected a consultant team of bar engineering with HR Green. The working group met with them recently just to define the scope and what the deliverables are. And just very quickly here, they are conducting a policy review, seeing what's relevant, what can be brought in. Also, bar engineering has done a couple of these similar studies, and also they'll bring to the table some of the lessons learned, maybe mistakes that we don't want to make. Also, they are going to help us identify stakeholders that we want to bring into the process in the future. And also, what are some of the implementation factors? So this comes back to, for example, assessment policy. That could be a barrier if it's not created correctly on, adding a sidewalk. If residents are paying for a sidewalk, that could be a barrier on maybe not getting that built as part of a project and looking at the overall network. So there needs to be an analysis of some of those issues. But overall, the consultant, from my understanding of the deliverables, is they're going to provide a very basic and general outline of a policy. They're going to create 4 street design templates that, whether it's a collector street, maybe a local street, maybe it has a sidewalk, bike lanes. So they're going to have 4 design templates. And really what that would allow the working group and the city to do is move forward after this, small contract is ended, and having a really good basis to move forward to the other commissions and boards, to the public, and really start reaching out for some of that more in-depth feedback. So really, I think we have a really good basis for moving forward. And this is an example, as you recall, Cliff Eichinger, the administrator from the watershed over in Ramsey, Washington, presented. And this is a picture that they had used with bar engineering in one of their policy reviews. On the left, it shows visioning of before, and then on the right, after. So you really are narrowing up the streets. You're bringing in a component of stormwater. You're providing a safer place for pedestrians. So there's a lot of reasons to move forward with this. And this is my last slide here. This is just a quick overview of the workshop. I know there's some information online. I'd encourage people to look at the slideshow on the city's website. But really, there was a large array of stakeholders at that workshop: school district, Met Council, city, state. And it really brought in a bunch of opinions, and it was really great. We have good documents that came out of that meeting. And kind of some of the key points are the vision. And these are just a few of many that were listed by people. They want to envision the city as tree-lined, a place where we want to be, having options, places to gather. They want to look at all different modes and users and abilities, so be all-inclusive. The types of projects Living Streets could be utilized on, anything from reconstruction to maintenance, so really take opportunity and advantage of whatever is going on. And also, one of the topics of discussion was exceptions allowed. I think for Living Streets to be successful, you're going to have to really say this is the new vision. And let's say if we're not going to put a sidewalk here, we really need to make the argument, well, why shouldn't it be put there? So you kind of have to flip that on its head. And again, the network approach, some of the council members and others were talking about, making sure we maintain right-of-way that we currently have. If we're going to be looking at a network perspective, possibly not vacating right-of-way, there could be a use 50 years down the road, 20 years down the road. So those are some things to keep in mind. And also, which roadways would Living Streets be, a part of? We said, under the city's jurisdiction, local roads, collector roads, minor arterials, and then obviously, the county, they have France Avenue, but, on a county or a state level, that's where Living Streets could have, education or encouragement on working with those entities. So really, I think it would be more focused towards city jurisdictional streets, but it doesn't prevent the outreach and coordination with the other entities. And then also performance measures. If Living Streets is implemented and moves forward, it would be nice to see how we're doing. And some examples that came out of that, well, what percentage of the trail or biking network is completed as a percentage of the comprehensive plan. So there's some performance measures that could be used to make sure that, we're on track. And also, probably the most important is the implementation steps in the policy. So possible looking at changes to how the CIP is developed, some code changes might be needed, design standards would need to be looked at. So again, this is a huge process and project, and these aren't my ideas, these are ideas out of the workshop, council members, staff, so other jurisdictions were there. So again, that's going to be the process for the city to work through some of these issues with the working group and the other boards and commissions in the city council to really get a good basis for a policy. Obviously, if a policy is to be successful, you need that upfront user input. So with that, that is my hopefully under 5-minute presentation.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any questions of the board? Wonderful. Great update. Next on the agenda, I'm not sure where it comes in, but I see member roster. Is that?
That's just a handout that's actually on the dais tonight.
Okay.
Isn't it? I have a copy of it. If you didn't get.
So it's just the attendance roster?
Well, what we have is the attendance roster, but not the one that has names and phone numbers and emails.
Oh, we'll get that to you. I apologize for that. Yep.
Okay. Chair comments and Chair and Commission member comments. Start with Courtney. If you have any comments, this is the time to provide them.
I'd like a refresher on how do you share articles appropriately. I came across one that's 600 pages today. It's excellent for my background about, it came from the ADA on keeping in mind the underserved and disabled population when you're designing roadways and pathways and sidewalks. And it was really excellent. It's very brand new research. What's the appropriate method to share that with the group?
I believe you would send it to Wayne or to Sharon, and then it would be distributed through.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Second, I'd just like to add, just to put it out there, that when we move along with the Bike Boulevard thing, I'd really like to be part of it if there's a group that comes out about educating the public. Something that came to mind today was sharing is my experience today about, well, you said the law is 3 feet for any moving traffic for the bikes. How do we enforce that? It comes to mind of on the back when you look at Metro Transit buses, that little yield sign that says state statute XYZ, you need to yield to buses. How do we put that out there that the average person is not a biker? They don't know it's a state statute that you need to yield to bikes. I'd like something to be put out there that there's some teeth behind you need to yield to bikes and something. I'd really like to be part of a group if there's something for that moving forward.
All right, thank you. Just want to move down the row if you have any comments. Otherwise, just say pass.
I think I'm going to just say that if I'm not sure if we're going to create a working group on the safe routes to school. I'm assuming we are, and I'd like to be part of that if I can. Thanks.
I guess I just want to comment that it's coming to me tonight that there's so much that's happened in the last year, and I think we've got a lot of accomplishments that, this group and the working groups and the subcommittees and staff and everybody is working, the Bike Boulevard and the Living Streets policy, France Avenue, Safe Streets to School. So I just think there's a lot to show for what's been happening in the past year.
Thank you. Tom?
I'll pass.
Jennifer?
Well, I can plug you guys into groups. The BETF certainly would love volunteers to help with education. It's one of the things that they focus on. It is hard to get the message out. It's an ongoing thing. And I also expect that part of Living Streets will be looking at the education component. And then there is a Safe Routes to School, and maybe Catherine will share more about, well, Bloomington Public Health. Edina is a member of Bloomington Public Health. Through the statewide health improvement program, is that it? Bloomington Public Health has put aside $29,000 for a Safe Routes to School plan for Edina. And a group has just started working on that, had the first meeting on Tuesday this week. And, there really weren't, there was good school district representation, but, I think we could use more representation from the citizen end and maybe the ETC end. That may be a formal working group to form, to work with. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, if there's already a group, there's probably no need to create another one. Maybe I need to go and join that one.
Yeah, so I can send you contact info. And other than that, I echo Ann's comment, too. I think that we have moved along, and I think the council was very engaged in all the things that we're working on. It's great to have that support and leadership.
Just to touch on that, we did have a joint working session with the council on Tuesday night. We got to share 2 hours with them before their epic 5 3/4 hour session they had here. But we did review all the priorities that we have for the year, and we're excited. I think we're on board with each other and moving forward. So that's all I have.
And I'll just second what Ann said. I agree. I think we're doing some really exciting things as a commission and really moving forward. So that's all I got.
And I think this is, since I wasn't able to make the meeting on Tuesday night, and I think this is our first meeting since the scope change was approved, I just want to really thank staff for persistence in pursuing that scope change and commend our group too. I think that is a huge win for the citizens of the city. And I'm referring to the scope change on France Ave for the pedestrian crossings. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about all the other work as well. And then I wanted to reiterate what Commissioner Thompson said earlier this evening. And thank you, Commissioner Janovi, again, for your service over the last couple of years. And welcome, Paul, as chair.
To staff comments?
Actually, to respond to the thank you for that. Actually, we had our manager, Scott Neal, was heavily involved, and then Commissioner Genevieve was heavily involved when it got to the tab, along with the mayor was heavily involved. And so I always put it that those are the three that really got the thing through the process. So I do have, there's a couple of things. Before the next meeting, our staff would like to take a group photo. So in front of you tonight, there's actually an authorization for release of photographs, whatever. If you could sign that, if you want to sign it, you don't have to, but if you could, and then hand it off to Sharon on your way out, or if you want to bring it next time, read it through and bring it next time, we'd appreciate it. They're doing that with all the boards and commissions and councils to get group photos, and I would suspect that it would end up on the new web page for that they're rolling out a new web page, basically, or for the city. The other item is, and I don't believe that we've handed out the Transportation Commission bylaws, the one that was actually approved by the City Council. So I got you a fresh copy of that in front of you. And I believe that was all that I had.
Okay, I guess need a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second? All right. Thank you. Stand adjourned.